3 years after Paul writes this to the Romans, he's going to get to Rome. He's praying that he might get there. He's asking if they would strive together with him with their prayers. But in those 3 years, Paul is attacked by the Jews, beaten by them. He goes through 2 trials. He spends time in prison. He's shipwrecked. He's bitten by a snake. And finally, he arrives to Rome in chains. But there to meet him is this collection of Christians who are waiting on him. He ultimately does get there. He never gets to Spain, but he gets there. And God uses him in a great way in Rome as he writes much more of the New Testament from Rome. Simple principles of life that you see in Paul that made him effective. You wonder, can I ever be like that? Well, Paul thought you could, because he writes in 1 Corinthians 4, be imitators of me. He says, this is the way I'm following Christ. Follow me as I'm following Christ. It's a pathway that's available to all. God will give you the grace. He said, by the grace of God, I am what I am. It's available to you just as it is to me. Elisabeth Elliot, a lady I greatly admire. She's the wife of a man who perished in the late 50s, Jim Elliot, who was one of some missionaries that went to the Auca Indians, and they all perished. Elizabeth went back and ministered to those as a missionary. But anyway, when she was 4 years of age, 2 missionaries came to her house and they had dinner with them. They were John and Betty Stam. There's a picture of them that'll come up behind me in just a second. But they came and she's wide-eyed with these missionaries at their table. They went off and went to missions in China. When she was 8 years old, her father brought home a newspaper, which the article is right there beside their picture. And in the article, there was a picture of a baby's head sticking out of a basket. And it was a story of Betty and John Stam, and how they had been captured, they had been beheaded, and that a Chinese pastor had rescued their baby and brought the baby out of danger. And this was how he did it, by smuggling it in a basket. Imagine an 8-year-old that had as 4 years old, these missionaries, and finding out that. Well, some years passed, and 4 years later, Elisabeth Elliot came across a prayer written by Betty Stam. She read that prayer and she took it as her own for life. This is what it said. Lord, I give up all my own plans and purposes, all my own desires and hopes, and accept thy will for my life. I give myself, my life, my all, utterly to thee, to be thine forever. Fill me and seal me with thy Holy Spirit. Use me as thy will. Send me where thy will, and work out thy whole will in my life at any cost. That's very inspirational to us. The only problem in that whole thing is those last 3 words. That stops the train in so many people's lives. At some cost, at any cost. You have absolute freedom, God. You know my life. You know what needs to be done. You know the Jerusalem I need to go to. You know the Rome I need to ultimately get to, and how I need to get there no matter what the cost or demand. And there's a Spain in my heart. If all it works out, I want to go there too. See, a lot of us are like Moses could have been. He stood before that burning bush. That burning bush, God said, go. Moses said, I can't. I really don't want to. And God said, go anyway. Moses could have gone in one of 2 directions right then. He could have said, God, I don't agree with you, but I will become the best sheep herder you've ever seen. And he could have gone back and spent the next 40 years herding sheep better than he ever had before, and done it for God. Or he could have been obedient like he was and went to Egypt, intimidated as he was, unprepared as he felt he was, and yet God used him in a great way. Paul was like Moses. He was willing to go, no matter what the cost, no matter what the demand upon his life. And he even had plans beyond that. That is how I want to die as well. Paul died with Spain in his heart. I don't ever want to arrive. I want God always putting on the horizon of my life new hopes, new dreams, new challenges that I have no fear of attempting. And I don't ever want to settle in that this is it. This is all it's going to be. I want a God who keeps me working now, planning for the future, and ultimately planning for great things beyond that. Would you bow with me?